Hello, welcome to the Kindest Gnomes class. This is the October 2022 class, and it's the one where you bought this stamp set and I sent you all the little pieces that you needed to make 3 cards. Now, the first thing you need to do before you start to make your cards is to check your stamp set. It's a cling stamp set, and that means it's the red rubber. So I've already sorted all of my pieces out, but I'll show you quickly how to put them together. I don't have another one of the gnomes, so I'm going to show you with a different stamp set. When the sets come, let me move that. When they come, they will look like this. You will see that all the red rubber pieces are on one big rectangle of red rubber. And there will be a separate piece that has the images. And these images need to go onto the stamps so that you know what you're stamping and whether you've got it in a straight line and everything. So all you do, I'm just going to pop that one back in. All you do is take out one of the stamps, and you can see that they're attached with the red rubber. You just need to pull them. It comes out really easily. And on the back, there is a shiny kind of a paper, like a waxy paper. Carefully peel that off. You don't want to peel this foam piece. Just carefully peel that paper off. Find the matching image on your sheet. Now, when you look at the sheet, it's difficult to see which is the back and the front. I use this side, and each of the images has the wax paper over the top, but then there's a cut line down it. On this side, there are no cut marks. It's just a smooth piece of paper. But on this side, you can see that there are angled cuts, and that helps you to take the paper off to put the sticker onto your stamp. So this is the image we have, and can you see how it just peels away? Don't pull it too hard, but they will just peel off and leave the image that you need on the sheet. Oh, I can't just get that. There we go. Oh, I don't want to take the whole sticker off. If it's difficult, use a pin or a pokey pin or something just to get the corner lifted up. Sometimes they can be a bit temperamental. You can see that's coming off really easily now. And then get your stamp, and with this grey side, which is the spongy foam side, we're going to push that down onto here. And I like to use this like cut out shape to get my stamp in exactly the right place. Don't press it down too hard until you know you've got it lined up, because it's really difficult to get that sticker off. But once you know that it measures properly all the way around and it's not overhanging or anything, then just press it down gently and peel it off the back. And that becomes the sticker on your stamp, and it will stay on there all the time. And then what I do is I stick them into my stamp set like this. And I use the box to keep them all in. So let's go back to our stamp set. It doesn't matter how you arrange them or anything, as long as they all fit in your box, then, however you want them is fine. Okay. Now let's get the first card out. On the PDF, I showed that this one is the first card, and the one with the colouring is the second card. But when I packaged them all up, I actually put them the wrong way around. I put that this one was number 3, but I put that the colouring one was card number 1. You can do it in either order that you want to. I'm actually going to go through the order that's on the PDF. Okay, so you need to get out the red card base and the envelope, and your pieces are tucked in like this, and then they have the little sticker on saying which card number it is. So you need this whole package, and inside your envelope there will be lots of pieces that you need. I've tried to keep them all in the envelope just to keep them together. So you have 2 white pieces, you have your designer series paper, 3 pieces of that, a little nose, a sentiment, feet, twine, a beard, a little hat, and your card base. And I'm going to fold this in half, press it down with my finger, and then you can go over this with a bone folder to keep it nice and flat, or you can just use a stamp block, something nice and flat, and just carefully go down that folded edge, and that helps to keep your card flatter. Okay. If you want to make this card again for yourself, all the instructions are here, all the sizings that you need. Okay, so I'm going to take one of the white pieces, and this is going to become the front of our card. And you start off by getting the DSP, and your 3 pieces should match up. You should be able to work out which way this goes, and you see how it's matching up to make one picture. And that's the order we're going to put it onto the white card. You can use a liquid glue or a tear and tape. I'm going to use my stamping seal tape, and I'm going to go with the first one on the left and then the one on the right. And if you didn't want the little toadstools, you could use this. The back of it has little snowflakes and things. So I'm just going to add some glue to this. You don't need an awful lot. And checking that I've got the right one. Pop this at the left hand side, and you'll have just a little tiny border around the bottom and the top. And I'm just going to let it fall like that. I'm not pushing it down yet. Then I'm going to take the 3rd piece and line this one up. And I find that this is easier because if you do the 2 outside edges, then it's easier to get that 3rd piece in the middle. Sometimes if you do the first one on the left and then the one in the middle, you might end up with not quite enough room for your designer series paper. Whereas doing it this way, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit of a narrower gap between your paper here. As long as the sides and the top and the bottom look okay, nobody else can notice if you've not quite lined it up. Okay, so let's pop this in here. I still line up the top and the bottom, but I'm not as worried about the middle. Okay, and once you've got them all on, then that's when I press them down. Okay, then the next thing we need to make is, let's get the picture back to show you, is the twine that goes all the way around and the sentiment. And for my first one, here we are, I'm going to show you the sample. For the first one, I used one of the sentiments from the gnome stamp set, which I've just lost where I put it. I used this one. This one would fit as well, and so would this one. Or you could use a different sentiment from a stamp set that you might already have. I think I might actually make it a birthday card. So I've got a different stamp set on my table, and I'm just going to choose this sentiment. And you just need to measure to see which stamps you already have and which sentiments you want. And I've made it so that most of the smaller stamps would fit on it. I'm going to pop this on my block. And I'm going to stamp, this is Night of Navy. On my table I only have Smoky Slate and Coastal Cabana. So I'm going to stamp in Coastal Cabana. Okay, and I'm just going to do the happy birthday. Now this one is a photopolymer stamp, which means you can see right through it and you can check to see if it's going to fit. So I'm quite happy with that, and I'm just going to stamp this one. Because really, it doesn't matter what the occasion is for these. You can make any occasion. And you might not need another Christmas card, but you might just need a birthday card. And then with the twine, oh, I just tied that in a knot there. We're going to wrap it around the whole card, and you can choose whether you're putting it at the left or the right. On here, I put my bow at the right. This time, I think I might do it at the left. And just tie a little bow. Okay. comes right down. Oh, and undo that little bow there. It's just, that's it. You can always move the bow round a little bit as well once you've got it tied. Okay, I'm going to use my scissors. You don't need ribbon scissors for twine because it doesn't matter if it's going to fray and it's just tiny. Whereas if it was a piece of ribbon, I would use my ribbon scissors. Now I know that this is too far out, so you just bend your card and then you can pull this round a little bit until you've got it just where you need it to be. There we go. And I might move it a little bit later, I'm not sure. I'm going to pop this on here and I'm going to use dimensionals. I'm going to put some dimensionals at the top and stick it over the top of the twine. So what I'm going to use, I think I might use one of these little strips on the edge. If you have the foam strips, that would work too. Let's see which way I need that to be, that way. So I'm going to stick it right up here. You could put another row down the bottom as well. I think I will. And then the twine will just fit between the two. So, okay, and put that right on the edge. So, just take this one off. And I'm just going to pop this over here. Okay, and then last of all, we've just got the little gnome to put on. And you start with the beard. And can you see how there's an embossed circle on here and a little line at the top and bottom? The circle is where the nose goes. I'm going to add that with my liquid glue. Just need a little bit, but you could use glue dots if you like glue dots, or you could use a little bit of a tear and tape. I find that when you use the liquid glue, you can move things around a little bit easier if the glue will come out. Come on, glue. Doesn't want to come out at all. So let me just, I'm just going to poke a little hole down because I know it's dried up. I can see a little lump in there. So you get these tiny, weeny little lumps and that just stops the flow. So I don't want it to come out too fast now either. Oh. I think there might be still some more glue in there. Let me just see if I've got another glue here. Because this one doesn't want to play. Let's try another one. You do get a little bit on the end. There's like a little rubber coating. You can take that off as well. There we go. And then you put that onto the beard part over where that embossed circle is. Okay, and it fits just perfectly. Now the next thing you need is a little bit of glue. Let me just get my poker tool to show you. On this shape here. Oops. Look, I've got a little piece of paper stuck to my finger. It just goes onto here. Okay, and that's where the hat's going to go. If you put that glue on the hat, you might get too much. Whereas if you just put it onto here, you know you're pretty much only going to stick the bit you need. I do find you need a little bit on the nose as well, just at the very top, just to make the rest of the hat stick on. And I've cut these out with the dies that match the set. A lot of the things you can cut out by hand, you can fussy cut, but I got the dies because I did like this beard and everything. So I'm going to put this on with dimensionals again. So let's pop a few on. I'll put one on his hat. And then leading right down, and maybe just one on each side. If you don't have dimensionals, you can certainly glue this down flat as well. It doesn't have to be raised up. So let's take all of these off. That might have been a few too many dimensionals. Okay, now, oh, he's going at this side this time. And I'm going to put him just over the edge of the banner on this one as well. Let's just see. I'm going to pop in there. You can see that I'm not putting his shoes underneath him yet, because I'm going to attach the whole thing to the card base before I put his shoes, because his shoes might go below the designer series paper, and so you want them to stick onto the card base. I'm going to attach this to the front. Might use my tear and tape, just my stamping seal. And you just need to position it so that it's right in the middle. Okay, and then his little feet, I'm going to put dimensionals just on the toes or just on the shoes. And then we can pop it under. Oh, they might be a little bit wide. I'm going to cut a dimensional in half, I think. I don't want to be able to see them. So let's pop them like this. That's it. Okay, and then you can pop them under his beard, and this way you can see exactly how much of the shoes you want showing, whereas if I'd stuck the shoes onto the designer series paper, I might have them too high. You can even put them on a little angle so that it looks like he's dancing if you want to. I'm just going to pop them there. Okay, let's move this one out of the way. And then for the inside, you've got this little white piece. You could stamp another little gnome on the inside. Let me just see. I'm going to choose one of the gnomes. Let me see which the one is on the front. I might put this little guy, this little sitting down guy, just on the inside. I'm not going to colour him in. I'm just going to stamp him. So I need to have the grey. Okay. I'm just going to stamp it down here. Pop him just on there. And we'll close this one up. And then I'm going to attach this to the inside. You can also stamp the front of your envelope as well. You could put the same little guy on the front. It just means that everything sort of coordinates together. There we go. And so that's really quick, and that's our first card. Now, I'm just looking to see where I put my envelope. Up here. I am going to stamp, I think. And then I'll know that this envelope belongs to this card. So you could colour these in as well if you wanted to. Don't use blends though on an envelope, because it will bleed through, and you might also see it on the back. Okay, so there we are. That's our first little card made. I've got a little bit of a boo-boo here from pressing too hard, but all I'm going to do is get my little sand eraser and just rub that off once it's dry. Okay, so that's our first card. Really quick, really simple. And this layout I use for lots of my cards. It's one of those that you can use a piece of designer series paper that all matches, or you can use scraps. You can use 3 different pieces. You don't have to put an image here. You could put a circle with a stamped item on. You certainly don't have to have a 3D item on there, but it makes a really easy layout and a really pretty little card. Okay, so that's card number 1. Let's find card number 2, and it's going to be these little gnomes. So this card pack, yours will say on it card 1, but it's going to be card 2. Okay, so again, this is your base, and the other piece that you need is in the inside, and they're the only 2 pieces that you need for this card. And I'm going to get the one that's finished. Let's see where that one's hiding on my desk. Oh, it's disappeared. Okay, I'll see it in a moment, I'm sure. Oh, here they are. Okay, so I made 2 of these cards. You can make the card so that it's portrait or landscape. It depends which of the stamps you want to use. If you want to use the mushroom or the toadstool, it's not really perfect for portrait because it takes up most of this space. And then you don't have a lot of room to stamp an image. But what you could do is do the mushroom portrait, and then you could stamp your little image on another piece of card, colour it, fussy cut it, and put it onto the card with dimensionals so that it looked like he or she was still standing next to the mushroom, but it would be a little bit more 3D. So I leave these here, and I'm stamping in grey. I like to stamp in grey when you're colouring because I don't think it's as harsh as looking at a black background. Now, those of you who have done classes with me before, you will know that this paper is a retired one, this cardstock. It's called Naturals White, and I loved it. When I knew it was retiring, I think I bought 20 packs because it is just my favourite cardstock. I've used it in so many cards, in my cards for classes, for my craft fairs, because it just has so much more depth to it because of these little speckles that are in it. So I am nearly out of this card, but so you can't buy this one right now, but it is, I just think it's so beautiful. I love, love, love it. Okay, so I have already re-stamped this one and I'll show you in a moment. So I'm going to do this one and just choose whichever of the little gnomes you want. I don't like to do the same two on a card. So I'm just going to see, I've got this little guy here. So I'm going to pick the little guy and I might do, let's see, I want one of the taller ones. I might do this one. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to do the little one and this one. I'm just going to check that they both fit. Yeah, just. Okay. So I know I need to go up to the edge here. I think they were the Whimsy dies that I used. And I love how it only cuts through a little bit. When you stamp onto this card, just hold it for an extra few seconds because it soaks up the ink on these cards. Just because of the type of cardstock it is. It's not like a shiny cardstock or a smooth cardstock on the sort of on the front layer of it. It's a little bit more porous, and so I like to just give it an extra little few seconds just for the ink to transfer. Okay, oh. I'm just going to put this one next to this little guy. And then just choose a sentiment. And you can stamp your sentiment in a different colour, whatever colour you think would work for you. I'm going to use the same pale grey that I've been using, but I'm not going to do this happy birthday one. Let's put that back in its box. Put that there. I think I'm going to do the Warm Wishes one. I like this one because it doesn't have to be Christmas for Warm Wishes. You could send it for a birthday or even a get well. Let's find a different stamp block to put this on. Let's see if it will fit. Yeah, it'll go on a small one. Okay. Just ink that up. And I'm just going to put this straight and then try and stamp straight. It's a little bit difficult when I'm filming to see if things are straight without you having to look at my head. So don't worry if it's not straight. Hold it for just an extra couple of seconds. Oh, it's straight enough. Let's close that up. And I'm just going to clean this little stamp. I don't know that I'm using it again at the moment, so let's clean it and leave it over there. Now, to colour them, I coloured using my blends. That's these ones, my stamping blends, where you get a light and a dark in each colour. But if you have colour crayons that you want to use, or markers, even watercolour crayons, you can certainly colour with those. I like the blends very much for colouring because you get lots of shadows and different colours, but I find it difficult if this is going to be like the front of a card because it bleeds through. Here's one that I was colouring earlier, and can you see how the colour comes through? So you don't want this to show on a card, like the front or the back or an envelope. So it's always good if it's a layer that it, you know, an extra layer so that people can't see that it's gone through. But I'm just going to colour just a little bit just to show you. And I'm going to do this little guy's hat. I've got this light balmy blue. And if you're using blends, it's good to use both colours, the light and the dark. I tend to go over everything first with the light, but I don't go right up to the edge. I don't colour it in beautifully. I just sort of do a quick sketch almost on it, like this. And then I'll get the darker one and go round the edges. And on some of the stamps, you get shading already done on it. But on these ones, there is no shading. So I'm imagining that my light is coming from the right, off to the left. So my darker shadows are going to be at the left-hand side. So I'm just going to go over at the left-hand side with my darker pen. And don't worry, I know it looks really, really dark. I'm going to put a little bit over here and just a little bit down here. Okay, and can you see how I've left that white patch or lighter patch in the middle? Then I'm going back to my light one. And you can use the brush end, you can use the nib end. If you use the nib end, just go round in little circles like this. Okay, and just go over all of the colouring that you've done. I'm still leaving it very light in the middle. Okay, so I've got it darker over this side. If you think I need it darker still, just use your light again, go over it, give it an extra layer, and you soon start to see the differences in the colour. But you might think, oh, it's a bit dark in the middle there. Let me just make it a bit darker to show you. It's a bit dark there. I needed it much lighter. Then you use the colour lifter. It actually doesn't take colour off. It pushes it through the card. So the nib isn't going to go blue because I'm working on blue. And then you just go over a little bit. And as it starts to dry, you'll see it's getting lighter there. Can you see how this piece here is getting lighter? And do a little bit more here. And that way, if you haven't got the shadows in the right place, you can make them in the right place. If you have a little bit where you've coloured over the edges or over the lines with a blend and you don't want to see that, you just carefully colour over the top, let it dry for a few seconds and then do the same again. And you can see it's not going onto the nib, it's not lifting colour, it's pushing it through to the back and out of the way. Now I won't do all of this colouring, but I just wanted to show you sort of how to use blends if you've got them. So I'm just going to use this petal pink for his nose. And here I'm not doing a lot of extra. I'm not going over with the dark and the light. Let's do his little hands. Okay. I tend to do most of their beards in Pool Party or in the smoky slate pole, sort of palish grey, which is this. If I do it in the grey now, it doesn't look as good because I stamped in grey. So I'm going to use Pool Party. And I'm only going over it really lightly. I'm not even going up to all the edges. So some of it will be left white and some of it has the Pool Party colour. Okay, and then let me just show you on the shoes. If I find the two greys, so I'm going to do the shoes exactly the same. I'm going to go over them with light first. Like this, and then I'm going to get my dark. I'm going to use the nib end because it's only a small piece. And I'm going to put a little bit, almost like the letter C, around that and across the bottom. And can you see at the moment it looks like two really distinct colours. but I'm going to go back over with my light and it will just blend it in. You will still get a little bit of definition, still a little bit darker over here, but it blends in more. And it doesn't look like a felt marker, like the, we call them felt pens at home, but just like a felt marker, where if you colour a big area, you get lots of lines, and if you overlap the colour twice, then you get a definite line. It isn't like that when you use blends. Okay, so I'm just going to push those out of the way because you don't need to watch me colour for an hour. Okay, so let's pretend that this is all coloured already. What you need to do is to get your card base. And you can see that I've cut this the other way. I've cut it lengthways on the cardstock. Let me just measure that up, press it. If you haven't got your bone folder, you can use your block. Okay, so you can have your card standing up if it's going to be portrait, or you can have it standing this way if you're going to use it as a landscape card. You can glue it down flat, or you can pop it up on dimensionals, and that's what I'm going to do with this one. On these two that I made, I popped it down just with flat with glue. There's no dimension on there, but I want to show you the difference it makes if you put it on with dimensionals. It just gives you that extra little 3D sort of element. I'm putting quite a few on. I always put some in the middle. I don't like the card to bend in the middle. I'm just going to take these off with my pokey tool. It's a bit quicker than me trying to do it with my nail. Oops. There we go. And then to check that they're all off, I just go over them with my finger. Check I've got them all. Okay, so I'm making this landscape. You will have just a nice little border all the way around, but that tone on tone looks nice when you have that extra layer in the same tone. And can you see how already when you've got them together, this one's flat, this one just raises it up a little bit. You could also put little embellishments on here as well. You don't need to leave it just with this colouring. Or, like we said earlier, you could even cut one of these out on another piece of card and pop that up on dimensionals as well, just so that it looks like there's more in the foreground. At the very bottom, I put a little bit of pool party blend, just so that it looked like they weren't floating in the middle of the air. Okay, so that's probably the easiest card to assemble, but the colouring may take a little while. Okay, so that's our second card. I do like this whimsy little pattern from the die as well. I use that on quite a few of my cards. Just gives a little bit extra when you're doing something that's really quite a simple stamping, but just that little die embellishment gives such a nice look. Okay, so let me just move some of these, put these back, and let's go with card number 3. Now, card number 3 is the WV card that I made for one of my Facebook Lives. So you may have seen this. It's a W here, and then the front piece is a V. Okay, I'm just moving my blends out of the way. Let's pop that down there. And the pieces you need will be in this pack that says card number 3. And there are quite a few pieces in here. Make sure that you get the little snowflakes out. They tend to stick at the bottom of the envelope. So get all these pieces. So you should have 2 little gnomes, and they need to be cut out, fussy cut, just with your scissors. You should have 3 little squares, a rectangle of the Coastal Cabana that's folded in half, a square piece of Designer Series paper, and 3 long pieces of designer series paper, and then your base and an envelope, of course. So it takes just a little while to assemble, but it's really not difficult. I'm going to put the original on here so that you can see how I'm folding. I'm going to move these to the side, and my snowflakes too. And all of the sides that have got the most score lines down, that's the part that's going to become your W, and you want that on your left hand side. And this piece here that hasn't got any score lines, or is the wider piece, that's going to be this inside of your card. So you need to hold it, and then we're going to form this piece, and I'm going to start at this side. So you can see this is the very left hand side of the card. Here's the piece that goes here. The next piece has to go up. So we're going to fold the whole card up. Okay. So it's almost like you've folded it back on itself. Okay. And you've got a check mark shape. Okay. The next one, because we've got this piece, the next one has to come down. So fold your card back on itself so that it's coming down, and you've now got this like a lazy Z. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Now it has to go back up to make a W. So we're going to fold the card backwards. Okay. And then you've only got 1 score line left, and it's going to come towards you. Now you can go down this with your bone folder. I'm just going down with my acrylic block just to show you again. Okay. So you then end up with this shape. And can you see how it's the W? You don't count this piece. And I've got that W already. Okay. So let's glue our designer series paper on here. And we're going to glue on the first 3 on the left hand side. So you need your longer pieces. And again, what I've done is chosen a piece of designer series paper where you've got the whole pattern. And you need to put your pieces together to check which is the first, second and third piece. Okay? And then it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let's attach those. I'm going to start with number 1. There will be a little border at the top and at the bottom and at the left hand side. We'll have a little border all the way around. Okay, so I start with this first one, and it's not like the first card where we had to do like number 1 and then number 3, because this one has got enough card for a border all the way around without you having to worry if it will fit in. Now, if you like the back of the papers better, then you can certainly, change them over. Glue them the other way. You don't have to do it the same way that I did it. It's like a little woodland scene on the back. You might like that more. I'll pop this one on here. There we go, 1, 2, 3. The next one doesn't have any paper on. Okay, so don't worry about this piece. You're not going to see it because it's going to have the little V fold on it. But this piece does have something on. So what you need to do next is find one of your white card, your square whites. And again, it's that beautiful Naturals card. And all you need on here is a sentiment. And I'm going to use Christmas sentiments because it's going to be one of my Christmas cards. So I'm going to get the Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm going to pop that onto a block, and I'm going to stamp in Coastal Cabana just because that's the same colour as the card base and one of the colours that's in the trees. Okay. I'm going to ink this up, and I'm going to move it right down because, as I said earlier, it's tricky to see while my phone is filming whether I get something straight without banging my head or you watching the top of my hair. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. But while I've got the ink out, I'm going to stamp my other little sentiments. So just makes it easier if I do all the stamping together. Let's pop this one away. And I'm going to put the warm wishes one. And this time I'm going to do this piece, and I have it over at the right hand side a little bit. You could make it over to the left. Just depends where you want it and which little gnomes you have. So you can see that the gnomes are two different sizes. So you can either stamp it at the left and this little gnome would be underneath it, or you can stamp it to the right, this little gnome would be on the right. So, oops, I just dropped that on the floor. Okay, so I'm just going to get I'm going to stamp this one to the left. And hope again that it's straight. That's good enough. Doesn't always have to be perfect. Oops, that was my little gnome falling on the floor again. I just have to pick it up. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to do the one that we stamped that's going on the inside, and I'm going to glue it down. It needs to be right in the middle, sort of, so it's centered top and bottom and left and right, but you can see the border isn't the same size all the way around. It's a wider border at the top and the bottom. So as long as it's in the middle, we're okay. That makes it easier for us when we put the front of the card on. Okay. Now I'm going to leave that onto one side for a moment, and we're going to make the little V one. So you need that other little piece of Coastal Cabana card, and it has a score line right down the middle. You need to fold that over, go over it with your bone folder, and that's going to sit like this, like a V shape. So our images are going to be on this side and this side. This side is just going to be glued down. So I'm going to attach my warm wishes to the left hand side. And I know I haven't got my little gnomes on yet, and that's okay. And then we've got one more piece of that card. It's going to come onto this right hand side. Okay, and then you have a little square of designer series paper, and you can choose which side you use. On this card, I used the side that had like the little toadstools and the little gnomes on. But you can also, if you like it better, you can choose that side. So I've made one like that, so this one I'm going to use this side, just to show you the difference. And again, it's just got a tiny little border all the way around. Now next, we need to have these two little gnomes cut out. And you've probably all got different gnomes. I just cut them out roughly from the designer series paper pack. And so I don't know which one everybody got. I'm just going to cut round. It's really easy to fussy cut. There are matching dies that would cut these out for you, but honestly, it's so easy. I don't turn my scissors. I occasionally open and close them, but I turn my left hand, I turn the paper in my left hand, and I find that much easier. If I try to cut along like this, I end up with more sharp edges. So I find for me, it's better just to move the paper, and I get a much smoother cut. Okay, so there's one. And you see how quick and easy it is to fussy cut these. Went a little bit closer to the edge than I'd like, but I don't really think it matters. See, I got a little pointy bit there. And usually that happens when I try to go too fast. Every now and then I just have to open my scissors, because as I've been closing them, as I'm pushing them closed while we're moving the paper around, you do get to the end of the blades, so you have to just move it a tiny bit and open and cut again. There we are. Okay. And then, can you see how I said you have to have the sentiment where the small one is going to be, because otherwise it just, the little hat is just in the way. So I'm going to put them this way around. And I like them to look like they're holding hands. And you can glue them down flat, you can glue one flat and put one on dimensionals, or you can put them both on dimensionals. I'm going to put them both on, but you can do whichever you like. You don't need as many as I always seem to put on. Okay, so let's take these backings off. Put her just a little bit to the right hand side, and I'm putting them fairly near the bottom. And then this little guy needs some. Go. Okay, and then we can attach that. And can you see how it goes? It attaches to the first fold and the last fold. Okay. So I've got my base, and to work out where it's going to be, I'm going to close this up. And I'm going to pinch all of these folds together. I know it's going to go over like this. Okay. But there's a really easy way to get it worked out so that you're not seeing this underneath square. And so what you need to do is this right hand side piece on the back down here, that's where we're going to put some glue. So I've got it turned over, and you need to make sure it's on this side. So when I turn it over, it will be this left hand side. I'm going to pop a little bit of liquid glue here, and I'm not going to put too much. You've got about an inch that it overlaps, but you don't have to put an inch's worth of glue on. Okay, so I know that this is the front, this is going to be the back. Here's my glue. I'm going to lay it over that white square. Okay, so I'm making sure that I can't see any at the top or any at the bottom. Then I'm just going to hold that down with my finger, take this side, and I'm going to fold it just over. Press it down. Okay. Press it for a second, and then just check that it's on nice and straight. Yep. Okay. Fold it up again. And I'm going to do the same now at this side. So behind the gnomes, I'm going to put an inch worth of glue. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to close the whole card up, and then I'm going to fold this little flap or this little door over. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that I've got this piece straight. There we are. Now I'm just going to hold it closed, press it down a little bit, and that will ensure that your card opens perfectly, and that when it's closed, you can't see the little hidden message underneath. Now, last of all, in your pack, you had these little adhesive snowflakes. Again, these have retired, but when they retired, I think it was I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I bought quite a lot of them because for card making for Christmas and winter, they're so easy to use. They've got a little glue dot on the back, and a lot of the new ones that we've got are like sequins, and you have to put your own little blob of glue. But I find these just so easy to use. So you need to close your card, and can you see I put 3 on the front and then I put the others so that it looked like it was snowing. I've got some on the inside that you can't see until you open it, but I start with these 3 here and then I put more just so that it sort of fits in with the 3 that you've got here and it looks as though it's snowing. And because they're adhesive, I'm going to use my little pokey tool here just to make sure that I get them picked up and they're not stuck on my finger. These are like little iridescent ones. So pretty. Some are a little bit more pink than others, but they look so nice. Okay, so that's my 3 that's on the front. If you wanted to put 4 or 5, you certainly could. And then I'm just going to put the rest on. Going to pop another one on the front. Whoops. Another one up here, I think, somewhere. Let me put it just there. And then I'm going to open it up and put a couple on the inside here, where they're hidden at the moment. I'm going to put, you can't see it very well on this paper, so it's tricky to see on there. Okay, let's throw that away. And there we are. That's our 3rd card. So easy to make. It's a really nice fun fold and it looks sort of like it might be tricky, but it really, really isn't. It's an easy one to make. Okay, so let's find our others. Well, here's our first card, and then we choose the one that we put on with dimensionals. Okay, so there's the card pieces that I sent to you, and they're the cards that it makes. You can certainly change them up a little bit. You could add extra embellishments. If you have little rhinestone jewels, you might want to put some on. You might want to, like we said, cut some of these out and pop them up on dimensionals. Lots of different ways to change them up as well. Thanks so much for ordering the stamp set, and I hope you enjoy making the 3 cards. I'll see you all again really soon. Take care and have fun crafting. Bye-bye.